Alright, so in this video I'm going to show you how to layer colored pencils so that you can create gradients and smoother transitions in your artwork. So layering is basically just adding your color in layers slowly. So you start light and then get darker and darker. So one of the things, so here is my Spider-Man drawing that I did. So how I used layering on this is, as you can see right in here, this red part. So I started with a very light red, sort of like this over here. And then I went a little bit darker to sort of this tone of red, and then darker here with like almost a maroon type red. And then I did a little bit of black for the really dark shadows in here. But I built those up gradually so that you have that layering effect. And as you can see, it gives it more of a 3D effect. So you can tell, you know, this part sticks out further because it has the highlight and then the darker part here. And there's a few other things that I did, but that is the basics of how I got that effect. So we'll go ahead and do it. I have these little squares here. So what I'm going to do is just do some layering and try to do a gradient. So in this square or this rectangle here, I'm going to do a light blue to a dark blue using layering so that you guys can see how that works. And so I'm going to start off with this light blue here. And so just very lightly, not pressing very hard at all, just to get sort of your base layer down so that you have something to work with. So I'm going to put this light layer down here first. And a way to make sure that you're not pressing down real hard is you hold it towards the end of the pencil and just do this. So you're not pushing it down like this, you're just having it out here and just sort of barely pressing down on it. And I've been going back and forth like this, but you can also do, if you want it to be even smoother, you can do little circles, sort of like this, and circles back and forth. It makes it so you can't see the lines like this as much, but if you are doing something where you want that texture, you can do that. But for this one, right now, I'm just putting down the base layer, and I will smooth it out as we go. Okay, so I got that base layer down, just very light layer, and you can tell that we already have a little bit of a light gradient here. So what you can do is also go this way. It's called cross hatching. So I was going this way, now I'm going this way, and it'll make it a little bit darker. So I'm only going to do it mainly over here to make this darker and leave this part a little bit lighter. And I'm pushing down slightly harder now so that it's darker over here. And then once I get to about the midpoint right here, which is where I'm going to start sort of blending it in, I want to leave this part that same color, but here in the middle I want to sort of transition it. So I'm going from pressing pretty hard to sort of lighten it up a little bit, to eventually where I'm not hardly pushing at all. So that way it goes, you're pushing hard, and then you sort of let up a little bit. So you can see a little bit already, so how this is darker, this is lighter. And we're just going to keep working it. And I'm going to do a little bit of circles there, so it helps blend it a little bit more. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, what I could do is I could press even harder with this and make this dark over here. But for right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and switch to the color that I'm going to blend it to. So I have this other colored pencil here. It's a little bit of a darker blue. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on this side, on the far side here, because it's the color I'm going to blend it into. So I'm pushing down a little bit harder here, but still not real hard. Because once you push down really hard, it basically seals the paper where you can't add any more layers. So you want to make sure you're not pushing real hard until your final layer. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but you always want to start with your lightest color first and then build up to your darker color. Because it's easier to make it darker than it is to make it lighter, because once it gets dark, it's almost impossible to get it lighter. There is a few ways you can make it a little bit lighter, but it never fully gets as light as you would like it to. You can use a white colored pencil. It will lighten it up a little bit, or use an eraser, something like that, but those don't always turn out the way you want them to. Because sometimes the erasers make lines in it that you're not wanting, unless you're trying to do like highlights or something like that. But and I'm doing the same with this colored pencil as I was the other ones. So I'm pushing harder here and lightening up and doing a little softer as I go, because we're trying to blend it in. Alright, so now you can see we definitely have a pretty good gradient here. This is actually light blue. You can't tell very well from the way the lighting is, but it does go from a darker blue to a light blue there. And so now I'm just going to add a little bit more here of a dark blue, so you can sort of see this is a darker blue, almost like a navy blue, to put here, just so you can sort of see the major difference. So that would be almost like a highlight type. This would be a mid-tone, like your normal color, and then this color I'm adding would be almost like a shadow type. So I'm going to add a little bit here. Okay, so I just added a little bit of that here and blended it in, and you can see how that blends there. And I didn't do the best of job of blending right here, which is okay, because I left it a little bit lighter so that once again it's easier to make it darker than it is to make it lighter. So I can go back and take some of those other colors that I was using and sort of blend it in right in here, so it's not so much white. So what I'll do is, so this is the lightest blue that I was using, so what I'm going to do is just use this lightest blue here, sort of blend it right in here to sort of help that transition there, make it a little bit darker. And it also helps blend the other colors together as well. And I'm just lightly pressing down. And I'm actually going to go over this darker part too with this lighter blue, because it helps blend all the colors together. Just very lightly. And I'll go over this part just a little bit to sort of blend it into the really light blue there. Alright, so that's a little bit better. You can still sort of see little spots where it needs to be blended a little bit better. And you can do little circles, sort of make that. There we go. That's a little better. All right. So one more thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with black. So this is already a pretty good gradient here that we have. I just want to show you, like if I was to put a little bit black here, that would be sort of like a shadow, which black you have to be very careful with because it can take away color pretty quick. So what I'm doing is I'm just adding just the slightest bit of black here, just to show you if you were to add a really dark shadow. And not all shadows will be black necessarily. You can use like an even darker blue. The only time it would be all black is if it was a very, very dark shadow. But you can use those if they're in really dark crevices. So like right here, putting that there almost makes it look like it's curving down a little bit, like there's a crevice in there, right down in here. And blend it up. So I could do something like that. This sort of makes it look like it's curving down a little bit because I rounded the edges there. So it looks like it's curving down because it's dark. There's a really dark shadow there. But and then, so this looks decent for a gradient. It's not the best. I could have probably blended this a little more. So I can take, this is the medium blue that I was using. So go through here and sort of darken this up a little bit so it will blend. So we have quite a bit of sort of this one shade here of like this light blue, and then just a little bit of the darker blue, and then a little bit of black. So what I'm trying to do is blend this part a little bit so we have a little bit more of that medium blue in there. So once again, I'm not pushing down very hard. I'm just sort of lightly shading in here. Alright, so I blended that a little bit. It looks a little bit better there. I didn't do a whole lot, but it does look slightly better. Alright, so that's the basics of doing layering. So what they call burnishing. So that is basically when you're basically sealing it off. So you're pushing down pretty hard so it's sealed. So what some people will do is, there's multiple ways to do it. So you take your lightest color, your lightest blue, and press down over all of it. But since I didn't push down all the way on here, that would change this color, so I'm not going to do that. Also, you can take a white colored pencil and do that, blend it over all of it. The thing about that is it lightens all of it. And then they also have a blending pencil, which is just basically wax. It doesn't have any like colored pigment type stuff in it. It's just wax. So it just smears this and helps it fill in the little white spots so it looks like one smooth color. See how right in here you can sort of see some of the white spots in there? It doesn't look completely blended. So it's however you choose. A lot of times I just take the white colored pencil and do that. It does lighten it a little bit, and you have to be careful because especially when you have black like this, if you're pushing down real hard to varnish it, it will get pieces of the black pigment on the white colored pencil and smear it. You can also just take your finger. That smears a little bit, but it doesn't really completely do it. There's blending stumps as well, but the best things that I've found is either a white colored pencil or the blending colored pencil, or the non-colored blending pencil. So it's whatever you choose. So with this, I will show you, so I'll take the white colored pencil here, and I usually take the light and then go to the dark, but it's however you choose to do it. If you want to go dark to light, the only reason I do light to dark is because if I start from dark and go to the light, sometimes I'll get some of the black pigment or something on here, and then it will smear in here. What you can do if you go from dark to light is just do a little bit and wipe off the tip. So either with a scratch piece of paper, or you can sharpen it, it'll take it off, or just sort of do that. So I'm going to go from light to dark here, and I'm pushing down pretty hard, about a medium right now, medium pressure. Not real hard yet, and you want to make sure that you basically have it final, basically exactly how you want it, because once you push down and varnish it, you're pretty much setting it to where it's not going to be very easy to adjust anything. It's like your final layer, your finishing touch. So you can already tell how a lot of those little spots are going away, but it is also lightening, making all these shades lighter. But since I'm going over the whole thing with the white, it's still a good gradient. And you can sort of go in little circles, and you can tell how it's becoming more of a solid color now, where you can't quite see the white through it as much. And once again, I'm just doing about a medium pressure. Alright, so you can see sort of how that makes it a little bit smoother. There's still a little bit you can see in there where it didn't blend completely. So what you can do is you can go back through and push a little bit harder. So that might get rid of some of those, but some of it is just because I didn't blend real well with the blue colored pencil that I did. But this does help sort of fill in some of that, makes it smoother. And if you blend in a few different ways, so you go this way, and then do little circles, it helps to get it from all the different angles. So I'm going to try and fill in this a little bit more, blend it just a little bit more here. Okay, so I've pretty much got that blended for the most part there. Looks pretty good, pretty solid. Once again, there's still a little bit of the white spots in there, but I think that's because I didn't put down quite enough pigment with my other colored pencils, because all the white's doing is just sort of pushing the other pigment down into the paper, essentially. So when it does this and it's smearing it between, so like right in here, I don't think I put quite enough, didn't do enough layers. But I mean, it looks decent, but I could have probably done a few more layers right in here, and maybe done a few more with the lighter blue, but it blends pretty decent. So that was with the white colored pencil. So I'm going to go over it with the colorless blending pencil just a little bit, just to see if it makes a difference. Okay, so I used the blending pencil. It helped a little bit. The best thing about the blending pencil is that it doesn't really change the color like the white does. The white makes it a little lighter, but it did help. It looks a little bit better there, a little more blended. So with layering, you want to do it with pretty much everything that you draw with colored pencils. But with the the varnishing, like I did with the white colored pencil and the blending pencil, where I pushed down pretty hard to seal it, that you may not want to do as much with, like if you're trying to do like fur or something like that, where you want the lines to stick out. What you might do with that, if you had a fur type drawing, is maybe smooth it a little bit and then go over and still do like your lines for your hair and your fur. Do your highlights and everything so that you want it smooth a little bit, but with the lines over the top, but you don't want to completely seal it. Or anything that you want texture on, like if you're doing like a rock that was supposed to have a lot of texture, like rough texture, this is the varnish or the sealing part. Usually is when you want it completely smooth, like this looks a little bit smooth. So that is your basics for how to layer colored pencils. So you can do this with one color like this, from a light blue to a darker blue, or you can do it if you're transitioning to two different colors. So if you wanted to do like a red to an orange, or even something more dramatic like a let's say a yellow to a green, something like that, you can do it with separate colors or the same color, just darker, whichever you're going to do. So I'll bring this back. This is the Spider-Man drawing I did. So with the blue, I did the same layering technique. So you can see the very light blue here, which is basically the highlight, and then sort of your mid-tone blues, and then I'd used a little bit of a darker blue and black for the shadow there. So right here, I didn't blend it a whole lot because they're supposed to be sharp highlights. Sort of like here, I blended it a little bit more because it's more of a gradient. Compared to here, it wasn't much of a gradient. It was more harsh highlights and shadows. So it depends on what you're drawing. And I did try to make that smooth because the suit's a little bit smooth. But some parts you can see still look a little rough. So it probably needed blended a little more. Like this looks a lot smoother. But yeah, that is pretty much the basics of how to layer colored pencils. It will definitely help you to get a lot more of your shading and your gradients right on whatever you're drawing. So thank you for watching, and let me know what tutorial you would like me to do next.